about Iran's nuclear weapons is almost the same playbook as Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction. It's actually irrelevant. If the Western powers were worried about Iran having a nuclear weapon, that problem could have been taken care of a long time ago. Iranians have already said they don't want the nuclear weapons. They've already offered, hey, we will commit to never develop nuclear weapons, provided that you can remove the threat from Israel as well. So if peace and stability in the region were even a consideration, that problem could have been taken care of for a very, very low cost without the need for these mutual missile attacks between Israel and Iran, and without the risk of the whole collective West getting enmeshed in another world war.
Hearing that brings back a deep sense of deja vu. We've seen this playbook before: overstated threats, strategic ambiguity, and ultimately a manufactured crisis that serves geopolitical goals. Krainer is right to point out the missed opportunities for peace. If avoiding war was truly the priority, we wouldn't be here. This isn't just about Iran, it's about power projection, control of natural resources, and global positioning. And tragically, the costs are paid by everyday people on both sides.
The whole objective of the game is exactly the same as it was in Syria, as it was in Iraq, as it was in Afghanistan, and that's the regime change, as it was in Libya. It's regime change, plain and simple. And the reasons for that is because, Western financial and corporate powers want to have a regime in power that will open the gates of the city of Troy to their Trojan horses, primarily their banking and corporate interests. For as long as there's an independent government in Tehran that wants to be sovereign, that wants to use their country's natural resource wealth for the benefit of their own country and their own people, the West will find one pretext or another to try to stage a regime change operation, a coup, military, whatever it takes to bring a different government to Tehran.
That's a sobering truth. The pattern of regime change is no longer a theory. It's well documented. And the irony is, the very pursuit of democracy abroad often undermines sovereignty, stability, and public trust.
It's always the same, one and the same playbook, one and the same objective. We've seen it in Ukraine. They're trying to do it in Russia. They tried to do it in Kazakhstan, in Belarus. It's always the same thing everywhere in the world. Western powers need subservient, subordinated governments everywhere in the world, but especially in resource-rich areas of the world.
Resource wealth seems to be more of a curse than a blessing these days. Wherever oil, gas, or strategic minerals are found, conflict often follows. It's a brutal reminder of how global markets and military policy intersect.
It seems obvious to me that the Iranians are very effectively striking at Israeli strategic assets. The ports, the Mossad headquarters, not Ben-Gurion, Ben Gurion Airport, and it seems that they're inflicting real, actual pain on the Israelis.
It's rare to hear commentary acknowledging the effectiveness of Iran's counterattacks. Most mainstream narratives downplay it, but if true, this signals a serious shift in military balance and deterrence in the region.
Because something that surfaced yesterday was a scream fest between Ben Gvir and the one of the heads, or the head of the Mossad. And I'm not, it's in Hebrew, so I don't understand what is being said. But according to the translation posted, Ben Gvir is screaming at the Mossad guy, "Why did you provoke Iran?" And the Mossad guy screams back saying, "We didn't realize the power that the Iranians have with their missiles." And so I think that, the Israelis can't back down. It would actually amount to a strategic defeat, and not only that, a loss of face and the end of Benjamin Netanyahu.
very likely the US will step in over the next few days. Do you agree?
I'm about 50-50 on that. I don't, at the moment, the messaging from Trump seems like they will step in, but I don't really understand whether Trump is doing the usual Trump things where he advertises that he's going to do something, but he has no intention of actually doing it. And I think that the only thing, Americans have seen the effectiveness of Iranian response, so that should pour a very cold shower on their illusions that they can change the equation in the region. And I think that the only way that they could reverse this course of events is by using nuclear weapons.
That's an unsettling possibility. Once nuclear options enter the discussion, we're talking about existential stakes, not just regional politics. It's a red line humanity should never cross, no matter the provocation.
And I'm not sure that would reverse it either, but it would, let's say that they could either Israelis or the Americans with a nuclear missile could inflict very, very heavy damage on the Iranians. Now, will they do it or will they not do it? We don't know. But without using the nukes, they are on the road to defeat, and I think it's inevitable. And then, we have to also take into account that today, Iran, which has been preparing for this clash with the empire for more than 20 years and has very effective weapons, is not only a much more powerful adversary than the Taliban in Afghanistan and the Ansar Allah in Yemen, both groups which have defeated the American power. Iran also has support from Pakistan, from China, and from Russia. And then there's also very, very tense situation in Turkey, in Jordan, and in Egypt, where you could see a regime change in Jordan. You could see a social uprising there. You could, Erdogan is pretending that he's outraged with Israeli behavior, blah blah blah. But he's helping them at every turn, and so I think that at a given point in time, something might go down in Turkey and change the equation.
Turkey's role has always been complex, balancing NATO obligations with regional ambitions. But growing public unrest can shift political gears quickly. We've seen how a single spark can ignite a storm.
And,
You mean like an uprising in Turkey? Because I agree, Turkey and Israel together, they toppled Assad, right? So they were in cahoots when it comes to Syria. So do you expect in Turkey like an uprising or
I don't expect one, but I think that one is always possible because, we can't really tell. But there is very, very strong revolt among the ordinary Turks against Israel. And, the Turkish government is aiding and abetting Israel in every sense. They're trading with them, they're supplying oil to them. They've taken down the Assad regime for chiefly benefiting Israel, and they are also participating in the defense of Israel against Iranian missiles. So they're helping Western powers take down Iranian missiles flying over Iraq. And so it's you can't be sure that nothing will change in Turkey, that things will remain as they are. And then in Egypt, you have General al-Sisi, who has been trying very, very hard to keep Israel out of it all. But the Egyptian population is also extremely revolted, and Egyptian military. And so at some point, it's going to take a drop to overflow everything. And then, the whole dam will burst, and you're going to have an avalanche, which could result in a war between Israel and Egypt. And Israelis are behaving like there's no limitation of wars that they can engage in, but they're already engaged on 5 fronts. Can they take a sixth front, another major power in the region, and confront them?
That's the real question. How many fronts can Israel realistically fight on? Even the most powerful nations have limits. Overextension has toppled empires before.
I'm a little bit surprised about why BRICS is not at least openly helping out. Of course, the Chinese are famous for their non-interventionist policies, but are weapons being supplied by China and Russia to Iran? What's going on there behind the scenes?
I think that certain systems are being supplied to Iran, but I think that those are predominantly defensive systems, intelligence support, radar, anti-aircraft systems, things of that nature. I think that they share intelligence, that they're, I think that from the point of view of Russia and China, their chief concern is to defend the Iranian government, not necessarily to go fight Iran's war for them.
That distinction matters. Support doesn't always mean direct military involvement. China and Russia seem to be playing a longer game, propping up allies without drawing fire themselves.
So I don't see that they will engage in military confrontations against Israel or any Western power supporting Israel. But they will prop up the Iranian government. And so in that sense, I think that both the Russians and the Chinese are already active. And then we've seen that the Chinese have, for example, been supplying weapon systems to Egypt. And that's, that's indirect help, but it's very important because one of the things that has paralyzed Egypt is their heavy dependence on the United States for military support. And of course, the price of that military support is you never touch Israel. So you have to remain out of these conflicts.
Dependency on U.S. military aid has tied Egypt's hands for decades. If China is truly offering alternatives, we may be witnessing a slow but historic geopolitical realignment in the Middle East.
Or else we're going to cut your military support. Well, it seems that the Chinese are stepping in to be able to wean Egypt off of that dependency.
This isn't just about Iran or Israel anymore. It's about a global shift. What Krainer outlines here is a multipolar world in the making. Countries like Egypt, Turkey, and even Jordan may soon have to choose between old alliances and new realities. And in that process, we might see the collapse of post-Cold War assumptions about power, deterrence, and who gets to shape the world order. It's a pivotal moment, and one that demands sober reflection, not just reaction.